Hey everybody, and welcome to the Midplanet Gaming channel. Or I should say welcome back if you've been here before, or welcome for the first time to anyone checking this channel out that's never visited. I hope you like the content I've got here, and I hope you'll subscribe and check back in the future for more great content. Now, if you don't mind, I just have my RPCS3 emulator window opened up in the background here. And before we get started today, I just wanted to talk a little bit about another video I had planned for tomorrow, which is Friday, February 21st. Now, I wanted to start putting up videos related to emulation, even if it's just me playing an emulated game in like a Let's Play format or talking about emulation, maybe some of the settings I use in emulators. Just I wanted to just sort of make it emulation focused on Fridays. So about a week ago, I recorded some video playthrough on the Wii U emulator, Simu. It was nothing special, nothing fancy, but it was just a quick game, like a 30-minute game of Mario Party 10. Because in some older versions of Simu, I would have frequent crashes when playing that game. It was just out of the blue, at different spots. It would just completely crash on me. And in more recent versions, including the most recent version, that's not been an issue. And I wanted to see, could I actually make it through a full game of Mario Party 10? And I could. Spoiler, I came in second. It was me playing against, 3 other computer-controlled characters. And I uploaded the video to YouTube and set it to release, scheduled the release date to be Friday, which is tomorrow. Now, I thought all was, fine and dandy with that. And then just a couple of days ago, I get an email that I've received a copyright claim on that particular video. And when I looked into it, because I thought, my first thought was, okay, Nintendo probably looked at it and said, no, we don't want you to release this. And if that had actually been the case, if Nintendo had filed a copyright claim against me, I would have no issues with it. I mean, I am not in some sort of state of denial where, I think I own those characters or anything like that. No, I know Nintendo owns those characters. And so I looked at the claim, and it was actually my another thought I had was, okay, so what exactly is getting claimed? It's probably audio. It's always related to audio. Maybe some of the game music was the problem, but it was actually a visual claim. And what was interesting is it was not made by Nintendo. It was made by, I am not very familiar with them, and I'm probably going to completely mispronounce this name. But it was Abema TV. That's ABEMA TV. And what I could gather from looking online is that they are a Japanese television network, which also has their own streaming service. So I also couldn't find any relationship, at least nothing listed online, between them and Nintendo. And the part that got claimed was actually it was like maybe a minute or two. I don't really recall. Near the end of the video, when where in Mario Party you're getting awarded like the extra stars at the end for like, oh, this person did the best in all around in, you know, all the mini games. Here's a star. Like the final, it's basically going to the final tally to see who wins. And that's the part that had been claimed. And YouTube has the ability, you can choose to just edit out that part of it. And I thought, okay, there's probably not a lot getting lost there. I can just trim that out and see what happens next. If that's all I lose, I can just put a note in the description or something to let any viewers know that, okay, the audio may cut out weirdly for a moment, or I may be in the middle of saying something and may get cut out. Here's why. No biggie. So I go through the trim process, and YouTube says it's going to take a while, and it does. So I go do something else, check back later, and the claim's still on it, but this time it's for a different, like 1 minute period, roughly, a little earlier in the video, and this time it was one of the scenes with Bowser in it. Now, I don't know for sure, and I am by no means a lawyer of in any way, shape, or form. But I've seen other people who have had Nintendo content copyright claimed on YouTube. And these other creators, they've actually shared, and they'll show you, you know, what the claim looked like. And the claim is always made by Nintendo directly. You know, the entity we know holds the copyright to these characters. So, knowing that Abema TV has its own streaming service makes me wonder, and again, this is purely my speculation, but it does make you think. But what I wonder is if they think that because maybe there's a video on their platform that contains the same content, and let's face it, every person who's ever done a Mario Party 10 Let's Play or review or anything like that, showing gameplay footage, some of it is gonna look very similar. I mean, it's the same game. So certain scenes like Bowser being freed, you know, after you roll each of the dice, each number on the die, things like that are going to look the same in everybody's videos. So I wonder if they believe that for some reason that because maybe videos that contain that content are on their platform, their streaming platform, that somehow gives them the right to go around to other streaming platforms like YouTube and issue copyright claims on every other video containing that. Because, you know, it does not. However, I was just so frustrated at this point that rather than disputing it, which I think would have ended up being a very valid dispute, I just got really frustrated and just said, you know, fuck it, and I deleted the video. Now I still have the video. I just deleted it from YouTube, which kind of put me in a predicament because I want to have something to upload to be presented on Friday, which this is sort of the intro too. So I'm talking about tomorrow being Friday, but when you see this, it will be Friday. Or if you watch it, you know, several days from now, you know, Friday will have come and gone. But anyway, so sorry that turned into a sort of a longer conversation than I thought it would be, but that's kind of the crux of it. Is now I'm trying to put together some content for you guys to have on Friday. And there was something else that was sort of in the back of my mind that I wanted to do, and that was related to the PlayStation 3 emulator, RPCS3. Now, as you'll see here, it's got my version number up here. I think I'm about a week out. These newer versions of RPCS3 do have a check for updates function here in the help menu, which is phenomenal. I like that they finally integrated a way to upgrade to the newest versions or the newest builds without having to go to the website and download it and unzip it and drag and drop files. This is way better. It tells you if there's a new version. Do you want to update it? Yes, and that's all you do. So as you can see here, the version I have is about 7 days old. I kind of update it, not really on a set schedule. I'll update it later, but I'm going to say no here. But just every so often I like to check this. I try to do it once a week, but sometimes it slips. But I do like to run the latest version. Other than that, the only other slightly major patch I have installed is the recent MSAA patch, and I do suggest checking out the RPCS3 YouTube channel, some of the recent videos, and you can learn more about the MSAA patch and where to get it and how to apply it. But other than that, it's pretty vanilla. I've got my X input device, which is actually it's an Xbox One controller, a wired Xbox One controller. But I don't really want to talk too much about the controls now. What I want to talk about are the Tales of games. Now, if I scroll up in my list here, somewhere, you know what, I can just search for Tales. Here we go. You'll see Tales of Grace's F, and it is marked as playable in the compatibility column. You can also search for the game on the RPCS3 Compatibility website. You'll see the same result here as it's being playable, which means, of course, that you can make it from the beginning of the game. You can play all the way through the game without any crashes or anything. You may still have some graphical issues. There may be some little minor issues, but nothing that prevents you from being able to play from the beginning of the game to the end and have an enjoyable experience. There's nothing that would cause you not to understand how to progress further, or no bugs that would cause the game to break at a certain point. It's playable. It's good, right? But you'll notice that Tales of Xillia and Tales of Xillia 2 are marked as in-game, which means not playable, but they will go in-game. Now, I don't fully believe this is accurate for Tales of Xillia. Honestly, I don't think it is for Part 2 either. And I kind of want to go into this a little bit. I want to open up my config. And what I have are fairly default settings here. You'll see under PPU decoder, I'm using the LLVM recompiler. And under SPU decoder, I'm using the LLVM recompiler again here as well. For additional settings, I've checked Enable Thread Scheduler, Enable SPU Loop Detection, and SPU Cache. TSX instructions, I've got set to enabled, SPU block size is safe, and preferred SPU threads is auto. For GPU, I'm using the Vulkan renderer. My graphics device is a GTX 1080 Ti. And I should add to that, for specs of the machine, the CPU is an Intel i7 8700K. I know a lot of people overclock that to around 5 gigahertz. I'm running at stock speed right now, so it's about 3.7 gigahertz. And 16 gigs of RAM. So everything is pretty much set to auto. I have nothing set by default for additional settings. If we go to audio, the audio tab, X Audio 2 for the audio output, down mix to stereo. We got enable buffering checked with 100 millisecond buffer duration. Let's see what else. The debug tab, I've got nothing checked here. And under advanced, also nothing checked. And I'm loading only liblv2.sprx. I'm going to close this. So those are the settings that take effect for any game for which I have not made a custom config. It's like the defaults. But for the Tales games, I have created a custom config, and I've done it pretty much the same config for each of them. That's Grace's F, and Xillia and Xillia 2. So let's look at what that custom config is. So I'm going to go ahead and choose Change Custom Configuration. And the CPU tab, still exactly the same as the defaults I just showed you. Going to switch over to GPU. And one of the changes that I've made here is I've set frame limit to 60. And there's a reason for this, and that being, if you have played any of these Tales of games on RPCS3, or if you've played them in general, you'll know that these games operate. How it's kind of funny how they operate in terms of frame rate, because when you're outside of battle, the game runs at 30 frames per second. But when you're in a battle, the game runs at 60 frames per second. Which isn't a problem on the original hardware, but with RPCS3, the issue is even when you set your frame rate here to, or your frame limit to auto or turn it off, you're going to have issues. What's going to end up happening is, if you get the frame rate correct for outside of battle, what's going to happen is when you go into a battle, everything's going to be moving much slower because it's going to be running at probably around 30 frames per second instead of the expected 60. Or the opposite is true. If you get this game working, any of these games working fine when they're in battle, then outside of battle, it's also going to run at 60 frames per second. So your characters are going to move very rapidly. It's just going to look weird. It's going to feel off. So for Tales of Xillia, Xillia 2, and Grace's F, you want to set the frame limit to 60. And then head over to the Advanced tab. And what you want to do is you want to set V-blink frequency to 30 Hertz. And that will completely take care of the frame rate issue. If you Google or look online, you'll see other videos where people recommend using like third-party software. You know, some people will say, install Bandicam and do this with it, and you can configure a keyboard shortcut to switch the frame rate as needed. You don't need to do any of that. Just go to the GPU tab for this game and set frame limit to 60. Go to the Advanced tab and set V-blink to 30. And you won't have to worry about the frame rate issues. Other than that, everything's pretty much the same. And I'll tell you, about 2 weeks ago, I was able to, over the course of a couple of days, play through Tales of Xillia from beginning to end. I chose to play as Mila. Normally I choose the Jude route, but this time I decided to play as Mila because I never do that. I never select that. And there were maybe 3 or 4 times playing through it that the game would lock up on me. Meaning I'd still hear like the background music or audio, but visually it would just be frozen and I would have to exit RPCS3 and start over. The good news is these games are so littered with save points that each time that happened, I was never more than 10 minutes away from being back where I was. And I never experienced the lockup at the same place twice. So I only consider that to be a minor setback. The other thing to consider here is that when those lockups were happening, I had different settings here. I'd forgotten that a while back I had tweaked some of my default settings, which had gotten passed down into this custom config. I had some other things in this custom config. I had some stuff over here checked and under the debug tab. I had different options set under CPU. It was pretty far removed from the default options. I made these changes that I just showed you. I made these settings that I just showed you, my current ones, while I was playing through this game. And after setting these, I can tell you for about the last 4 hours straight of gameplay until the end, I did not experience any lockups, any crashes. It was perfect, to be honest. And so I don't know if you will experience those lockups that I did, even with these settings. I'd have to play through the game again to see. But even if you do, just don't run past the save point without using it, and you'll never be too far from where you were in case there is a crash or a lockup. But all in all, I think it runs pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and just launch Tales of Xillia here. Okay, and it starts playing the little intro video here. Also, I will say that none of the like anime cutscenes or anything like this video, they all play through just fine. But I am going to go ahead and hit start, and let's skip that. But just wanted to let you know you don't have to skip it on this emulator. It will play just fine. I'm going to hit a button again to skip ahead, but you don't have to. Let's just load a game. Now, it would help if I actually hit the correct button. So I'm just going to pick a random point here. And I'm just going to move the camera around. And the character. Let's see. Just to sort of show you that it's pretty fluid movements. Oh, look, ran into a battle. So I'm going to go ahead and just win this fight real quick.
I will fulfill my mission, no matter what happens. I'm right there with you.
And that'll teach me to look around before I start running. We'll enter here, and we've got a little cutscene action. I was really hoping I didn't clearly, but I was hoping to have chosen a save point with a skit ready to go, where you press like the select button and watch the little skits, because the v-blank change and the frame limit setting I showed you, like there's no issue with that. Even the skits will play, the character portraits and like their mouth movements and all will line up with the audio as well.
To spend the rest of your life in Xillia, like that matters to me.
I'm gonna go ahead and skip this scene. Sometimes you will see the now loading screen for a few seconds, but usually goes away pretty quickly when it's transitioning into or out of a battle. I'm not really playing to win here, I'm just trying to show off a little bit of the gameplay. But yeah, I just wanted to let you know that if you are like me and a fan of Tales of Xillia, or any of the other Tales games that were available on PlayStation 3, that they are, in my opinion, at least on the hardware I'm using, they're very playable. I'm going to go ahead and actually exit out now. I think I have RPCS3 set to exit whenever the game ends, so had to restart it there. But yeah, even though it says in-game for both of these, and I'm using the exact same settings on Tales of Xillia 2, and I've basically just started a new game here, but so far it's running fine, and honestly, I expect it to behave the same way. So, like I said, if you're a fan of these Tales of games, like I am, definitely give them a shot on RPCS3. As far as I'm concerned, Tales of Xillia is perfectly playable. Even with the lockups that I encountered, they were just sort of minor setbacks. At the end of the day, it was still an enjoyable experience, and I was able to do it on RPCS3. So go ahead and give it a shot if you haven't already. And let me know in the comments below what your experience is. Let me know if you're not able to play the game due to too many bugs or anything like that. And let me know what kind of hardware you're running RPCS3 on. Of course, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. If you have not already, go ahead and down below click that subscribe button. That way you will be able to see all the future content that I'm going to put up on this channel. Right now the channel is pretty small, but I'm hoping to grow it out in the future, and hopefully it becomes quite a bit bigger than it is now. And if it does, it's going to be because of viewers like you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.